Welcome Algebra 2, this is Mr. Arellano. Today I'm going to be teaching you another video on the definition of a function and how that applies to tables and graphs. Another quick tutorial. So if we look at the definition of a function, that's every input has at most one output, okay? In the other video, I kind of try to describe a little bit of what that means and what that looks on a graph. Today, I'm going to go ahead and look over maybe some more that I think, maybe some that are potentially a little bit more challenging. So, let's go ahead and discuss this one right here. So, we look at this table here. This was maybe the most, I would say it was probably the most trickiest one, the one that confused students the most, let's look at this table here. Now, whenever you create a table, it's always important to go ahead and make a graph for it. So we look here, and I gave you a problem like this. Okay, and I told you, is this a function or not? Okay, a lot of you said this was not a function because the input one has the same output 4 times. All right, and I definitely understood what you were saying, but we have to always refer back to our definition of a function. It's every input has at most one output. All right, so if we go ahead and we were to make a quick sketch of this graph, okay, this is my x and this is my y here. This is 1 and this is 2. If I told you, okay, go ahead and graph this. Well, if we graph this, that's just this point here. Okay, now we go to graph it again because it has the other point. Well, it's just right on top. We do it again, it's just basically again right on top, and then we do it again, it's back to being on top. So if we look at this graph right here, is this a function or not? Well, we would say, according to our definition, every input has at most one output. So if we look here, the input 1, my input 1 only has the output 2. Even though it's the same one every time, even though we have it listed here, it's listed 4 times, it doesn't matter because it's the same output. All right, so it's kind of tricky. It's only not a function when the input has more than one output. In this case here, the input 1 has one output, which is 2. In this table here, we just have it repeating 4 different times, and that doesn't mean anything. It can repeat like that. It just matters that as long as it's the same one, that's all that matters. So maybe to kind of help clarify, okay, so let's scroll down. Maybe if it helps to clarify, let's look at one that is not a function. So let's say we draw this table. Let's do the same example: 1 2 1 4 and then 2 2 3 2. Okay, well, let's go ahead and graph this. All right, sometimes it's hard to know if this is a function or not until you graph it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick graph. All right, so let's go and do a quick graph, and here we have the input 1, the input 2, and the input 3. All right, let's go. It looks like our output is from 2 to 4, so let's do 1 2 3 and then 4. All right, now if we go ahead and look at this graph here, okay, so let's plot this first one. All right, when my input is 1, my output is 2. So when my input is 1, my output is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my dot there. When my input is 1, my output is 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw that there. When my input is 2, my output is 2. So let's go ahead and draw that. Perfect. Here we go. And now when my input is 3, my output is 2. So let's go ahead and draw that. Okay. Now if you look here, if we go back to our definition states that every input has at most one output. So if we look down below here, at this table here, the input 1 has 2 different outputs. The input 1 has 2 as one output, and the input 1 has 4 as one output. If we look here, this is one of the reasons why it's not a function, because there's an input at 2 and an input at 4 for the exact same input. This input 1, so input 1 has 2 outputs. Those 2 outputs are 2 and 4. If we look at the input 2, it only has 1 output, which is just 2. If we look at input 3, it only has 1 output, which is the input 2. All right? So the only reason why this table is not a function is because of our input 1. It's because of our input 1 having more than 1 output. These ones are okay. It's just the one that has the 1 input. All right. So I hope that helps to clarify why the definition of a function, what it means on a table and what it means on the graph, and at least going over some of the tricky ones like the one up here, at least moving forward, so you know. In this case here, this is a function because the exact same input has the exact same output. It doesn't matter that it's repeating, it's the exact same, so it doesn't change anything. I hope that helps.